I want to start with making it about me because my guest today said something to me that I don't think anyone has ever told me. And it means a lot because I've always been the, guy who was lower frequency, dread, worry, miserable. Amy Chan, our guest today, said to me, John, I miss your energy. Can you expand just a little bit on that before we get into breakups and breakup boot camp and all the stuff we're going to talk about today?
Start by showering you with compliments, but we got to
Mm.
rebrand you to instead of the angry therapist, like you're the fabulous therapist.
The fabulous. Ooh.
Yeah.
I
Well,
can't be the
okay.
happy therapist because that's not interesting.
No, but you are very chill and you do have this energy about you. And obviously, I picked it up when you were teaching at Breakup Bootcamp. It's just so you just want to be around you
Oh,
because,
I need to hear
like
this.
you have this inner peace where it doesn't even matter if there was like a lion, running around outside. You'd probably be like, yo, what's up? Hey,
Amy, stop.
it's all
Stop,
good.
Amy, stop.
It's true.
Just
I'm
kidding.
like, I want
I'm
some of
I'm
that.
on video. I'm saying give me more. But anyway, okay, enough about me. Hey,
All right.
listen. One of the things that I do is I like to throw my guests into the deep end really quick. So I'm going to ask you three questions. I don't even know what they are yet, but it's just to get things warmed up to set the tone. And yeah, my energy is no longer chill.
All right.
Okay, so here we go. Question one, they're very personal, is what is your current greatest struggle right now?
Ooh. I am dealing with grief and a
Hmm.
very different type of grief. It's not
Not breakup
heartbreak.
grief.
No. I've kind of mastered that type of grief, but
Yeah.
this is new. My father is slowly dying,
Oh,
and I've just never gone through this before.
yeah.
And I've had a very tumultuous relationship with him growing up. And it's really interesting because when I'm with him, there is no past. There is no, well, you
Hmm.
were the source of my anxious attachment. There is just pure presence.
Yeah.
And I imagine maybe that's what parents go through when they're with their children. It's just instinct. And it is hard, yet it is so beautiful and it is stretching my edges beyond what I thought possible. But with that, I feel everything. Like I feel like I
Hmm.
walk around with no skin in a sense because
Wow.
the smallest thing makes me feel so grateful and joyful. And then the smallest thing makes me a puddle of tears.
Yeah. First, I'm sorry that you're going through this. I went through this. I'm older than you, but I don't want to say our generation because I don't want to assume that you're near my age, but all of our parents are now getting really old. It's happening all around us. All my friends, uh, you know, um, uh, just helping parents dying, parents getting sick. It's a reality. It's life, and so I think many of us. Millennials, I'm not a millennial. My partner is a millennial, so are now having to face grief because parents are getting older or dying or getting sick, all of this. So
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. What is one thing you know about yourself today, Amy, that you didn't know just a year ago? What is a new revelation about self?
Ooh, damn. Let me see. I know that I'm very capable of dealing with chaos and conflict and challenges. And I think that
Mm,
just it really goes back to what's happened with my dad. Like before I would tell my family, I'm like, just so you know, I'm not gonna be the one that's gonna be there. I'll pay for things, but don't
right,
think I'm going to.
right.
And now that I'm in it, I'm like, oh, like there is a compassion and empathy and love in me that I never knew was there.
It's expanding you.
Yeah.
That's great. It means that I don't know if you're single or not, but it means that in relationships you're going to bring so much more to the table.
Yeah, I am. I'm in a really, first only healthy partnership. We've been together for 4 years
Mm,
and it's It is. It's evolving our relationship, my relationship with friends, even
Yeah.
acquaintances. It's people tell me I feel different.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. I love it. Final question is this. What do you want for yourself next 3 years? What does Amy, and we've had some conversations about mostly career stuff, but what do you want for yourself? And don't be modest.
Uh, I would love to get my docu-reality TV series up and going, which has
Yeah.
been a project. I have a different relationship with it though. I used to be very attached, and now I just keep asking myself, when I'm in my deathbed, will I really care if I had a reality TV show? The answer is no.
Yeah.
So
Right.
all I can do is I have these aspirations and goals and fun projects. I can try my hardest. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And I think that's with everything. It's like, yeah, I like that. I'd like my second book. I'd like a bigger platform.
Hmm.
I'd love, to keep growing my community. And I'm pretty happy and content with my life now. It's pretty full.
Yeah. Amy and I have many things in common. One, both being Asian Americans in this field, which I always champion. Two, I can relate to everything you're saying because I also have been struggling with some TV projects and almost work just the frustrations of that whole feast or famine world. And yeah, I get it. And I'm like you. Amy's very ambitious, and she is a go getter, and she is always building and creating. And so I can relate to the last one for sure. But also coming to a place where um, it's okay if like stop chasing. Noticing trees and moments, and it seems like you are a lot more grounded now. I'm definitely a lot more grounded now at 50 than I was in my 30s, where I was always exchanging self to get the more shinier things. So
Mhm.
anyway, thank you for
Yeah.
answering those. The water is now warm. The audience knows you better. Um, Now let's go way back. So Amy has created an empire on breakups, and this is tied to her own story. Tell us how this whole thing started. She has this thing called Breakup Bootcamp, which is an in-person boot camp, and also a book, and also an audio series. What got you? What got you the fire in your belly to help people with breakups?
Yeah, I was living in Vancouver and I thought I was living the dream, which meant I was in a relationship and we had a path forward of we were going to get married, we were going to have children. He was a businessman, so I would be a stay-at-home wife. Everything was set.
Mm,
And then that relationship fell apart very quickly due to
hmm.
infidelity. And I put so much of my identity in him and us and our future that without it, I completely fell apart. And
Mm,
at the time, I didn't realize it was the Band-Aid being ripped off of all the wounds I never dealt with, especially the
right.
ones starting in childhood, and I blamed it all on him. And I really struggled. Like I had suicidal ideation. I stopped eating. It was just so dark,
Mm,
and I couldn't understand because I've always been a high achiever, doing
hmm.
well at work. And so the fact that I just could not do anything to get out of this darkness added extra shame.
Yeah.
And when I finally kind of healed from that, and it did take like 2.5 years, I really dove into all of the science and psychology and everything. And I just was like, well, what happens to those people who don't have friends who are going to come over and force them to eat, who
Hmm.
aren't going to offer up their couch, who don't know what books to read? If I was that close to taking my life, what happens to those people? And I
Yeah.
realized we are all, when we're in that dark space, when we don't feel like we have hope, we are all just a few bad decisions away from doing something completely destructive.
Sure,
And
sure.
and that's
And,
how
and and
it,
if it's
yeah.
not taking your life, then definitely in the trenches of numbing, running away from, whatever your vice is, right? Any kind of addiction, all that stuff. You're very close to that when you're,
Yeah.
yeah, when you're down there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was I used that pain, and I always knew, I've always had, since I was young, just constantly struggled with my heart, which is why I dove into trying to understand the science behind it. But
Wait,
I
what do you
had
mean by
always
struggling with your heart? You mean that you're very sensitive, or that
just
breakups are really devastating
constantly
for you?
broken up with,
Oh, okay.
heartbroken, loved guys that didn't like
Mm-hmm.
me back, and
Mm-hmm.
I just was like, I don't understand why my heart keeps going through the ringer. Like, I'm a good person. Why? And I didn't know where it would end up, but I always had this knowing. I'm like, my pain is not going to be in vain. I'm going to do something with this one
Mm,
day.
yeah.
And then I created Breakup Bootcamp.
Nice.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Breakup Bootcamp. I was there,
Yeah.
but yeah, because it's like one of the biggest things that you do. No, I mean, or it's like one of the main things, and then you have a lot of spin-off things from it.
Yeah, it's a 4-day retreat in nature. I bring in a team of experts. You are one of them.
Hmm.
And we help people not just heal and process the pain from their breakup, but really understand what are the patterns. Because it's never just about the ex, there's recycled
Yeah,
pain.
yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty intense. They're 12-hour days. We also bring in a dominatrix, a sex
Hmm.
therapist. Like, it's like all these different healing modalities. So yeah, that's kind of like the main retreat.
um, for anyone going through a breakup, or if you have residue, because here's the other thing: is you don't have to be going through a breakup, but if previous relationships are causing you to get stuck or not be present in your current relationship, or it's giving you some false beliefs, let's go through some of the things that you talk about. Let's go through some of the meat and potatoes of to-dos for anyone who is either stuck because an old breakup keeps following them like a cloud, or they're going through a breakup now. What do you think
Yeah.
are, I mean, let's start with step one, in your opinion.
I think, yeah, we all carry some residue or baggage with us.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's very destructive. So, one really, fun, interesting exercise is just to write down the last 3 people you were in a relationship with, and
Hmm.
then write down what were the 5 main emotions that kept popping up. And then see, is there an emotion that continues to follow you from relationship to relationship? Because then you can't really say, oh, it was because he was a narcissist, or because
Mm,
it's like, oh, okay, anxiety or resentment. All right. Like, how am I contributing to this emotional experience repeating? Is it in the people I'm choosing? Is it in the sabotage? Is it in overgiving and pretending I'm a martyr? Right.
yeah.
And we need to start to look inward at where we are accountable, because it always takes two. And if we just keep
Hmm.
blaming and vilifying our ex, we don't learn from it.
I love what you're saying. And by the way, I wonder if you could speak up a little bit louder or turn the volume up because you're very low. My headphones. But
Okay.
what you're saying is huge, and I love that you're saying it so early. I mean, you're talking about taking ownership, right? So, um, a lot of clients that I've helped, because they spend so much time pointing fingers and blaming, especially when it comes to infidelity, and I get it.
Yeah.
Uh, they always are they create their own prison. They're not able to kind of heal and move on and forgive. They are stuck in someone, as a hit and run. Someone did something
Mm.
bad to me. And now I have this, anger, resentment. And also the love stove becomes hot. Now I'm scared to love, you know?
Yeah. I'm going to say something that's probably going to be quite controversial. When someone's been cheated on, and I know because I did this as well, I was cheated on,
Hmm.
and suddenly the entirety of the relationship and the failure and all the bad stuff was because of that one event that he did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my codependency, the fact that I would pout and give the silent
Hmm.
treatment when I didn't get my way, all of that wiped clean because you
Right.
cheated, so it's all your fault. And
Yes.
it's a very
Yes.
convenient way to
Yeah.
escape any accountability that it took 2 people to be in that relationship, and you stayed in that relationship as well. So,
You know what? I don't care how controversial it is. That is medicine that is prescribed. What you're saying needs to be stated. And yeah, it's a fact because, if you look at mindset, if you're just going to say he or she did this to me and that's why it's over, you're not examining the black box of why the plane went down. And that's where the gold is. And if there's no examination, there's going to be no growth for you. So you're just going to be angry. You're just going to go in, and then that anger energy is going to go into, dating and another relationship. So it's not even about the other person. It's about you. It's about you being more free by taking ownership. And it's like, yes, I didn't cheat. I'm not the one that cheated, but I loved around this person, not with. I didn't express my needs or whatever it is that you did. I mean, we're all 50% of any relationship, right? So you contributed something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a great and powerful, that's heavy lifting in the beginning. What else? What are some other steps? I love that you were talking about support, because I know all the breakups that I've been through, holy shit, if I didn't have smart feet and get somewhere, whether that was coffee with a friend or to the gym or whatever, or even just on my motorcycle, you could get depressed very fast because you're thinking about the relationship that produces feelings. Then you feel bad, and then you internalize. And so you could sink in quicksand very fast if you're trying to do this alone.
Yeah, and when you are in the thick of the breakup and you're in the shock and the denial, you're going to feel likely like these depressive symptoms, and that's going to feel natural for you to isolate yourself, to not eat, to do all these things that are really harmful for your recovery. And
Yeah.
so you almost need to fight that natural instinct. And it is so important to be around people, but also be around people who are grounded, who have a regulated nervous system, because the research shows like when you're around them in person, they start to regulate your nervous system that's not regulated. So there is a
Ooh.
calming effect.
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, yeah, it's fun to be around someone. It's actually having an impact on your body and your nervous
Yes.
system. And I
Yes.
also think it's important to educate people on how to support you. Because look, people aren't taught this in school. So they
Right.
come and they think like, like, why don't we just like bash your ex? Like, yeah, what a jerk. And let's psychoanalyze them, or
Yeah.
let's eat ice cream, or whatever
Let's go
that
to a strip
advice
club.
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad advice, well-intentioned bad advice. And at that point, as depending on your stage, but when you're just processing that this relationship is over, you need to just continuously talk about it so that your body and your brain get the memo. This relationship is over. This person is no longer accessible to you. And you don't need advice on like, you should do this and it'll just happen for a reason. That shit's just going to make it worse.
Yeah. The big one for me was my divorce, and I left with nothing, kind of chopped me at the knees, but I always say it grew new legs. So if it wasn't for my divorce, I mean, I wouldn't be here talking to you. I don't know. I think I would be like, shirt tucked in and trying to be like some business guy, or, punching a clock somewhere. And I would have been miserable. And it was the expiration of that got me to shake my life etch a sketch and just ask bigger questions. So if you're going through a divorce, or just a breakup, this is a time that you start asking yourself bigger questions. So not just like, what you want your next love experience to be like, but what's your life like? Like, are you doing something that is filling you up? Evaluate your friends. Do you need to draw boundaries with family? Like, this is the best. I think the soil is so rich after a breakup for you to just kind of do a life audit.
Yeah, I do this exercise at the retreat called the pie exercise,
Mm,
where I get people to draw a circle and then divvy it up in slices of pie. How much of your pie was devoted to the relationship, and then the
hmm.
other parts of your life, and all of the anxiously attached and the codependent. When you look at their pie, it's like 90% was relationship. And,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then we draw a second circle, like, okay, what is the ideal pie? Right? Moving forward, so that especially when you get into a relationship, you don't have that very slippery slope where you give
Mhm,
away more and more of your identity.
mhm,
And they balance that pie. And sometimes there's brand new slices like, oh, community, volunteer, learning a brand new hobby, going on a trip
mhm.
on by myself every year. And it's a much more rich and balanced pie. And so, I mean, I still do this because I have codependent tendencies.
Yeah, me too.
And if I'm not careful, I could be around my partner and I could 24 hours a day and have no problem with that. I need to create systems for myself so I'm
Yeah.
not codependent.
Yeah. And maybe you can relate to this. So my life pie pieces, the two big ones is career and relationship.
Mm.
And then what's left is a sliver. And so before, now I have to intentionally make more room for, friendship and self-care and all these things. But before, um, I didn't care about friends. I didn't care about travel. I didn't care about anything. I was just trying to be quote unquote successful,
Mm.
running toward that. And I have my the one, my partner, my happily ever after, and that was my entire pie. And then I had about 5% left for like family,
Mhm.
and yeah, it was very unbalanced. And so when the relationship expired, that's like 40% of my pie was gone, or
Yeah.
50% of my pie. And so yeah, it just chopped me at the knees. And I think this is why it's important when you're single to have, I don't know if the word's balanced, but it reminds me of the laminated posters in middle school, which is going to totally date me, but the four food groups.
Oh, yeah.
You know what
We
I'm
all
talking
had
about?
that.
And
They're still teaching
so
that.
yeah, so you're not just eating all, protein or all sugar or whatever, there is some kind of balance to your life, a wholeness to your life, a richness to your life.
Yeah, and I think that, the reason why we bring in a professional dominatrix is because a theme of the people who come to boot camp is they lose their power. But they didn't start
Mhm.
off that way. They started off
Mhm.
like confident, powerful, independent, and then somewhere along the way, their entire identity has merged with their partner, and then there's a breakup and they're totally screwed over. Well, how does that happen, right? It doesn't happen in one decision. It happens by death by a thousand cuts. And it's
Mhm.
when we were like, you know what? I normally do this, brunch thing with my friends on Sunday, but that's the only time, they have time because they're traveling. Okay, I'll just not see them. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to do that trip because I would rather go to Hawaii. Like this constant, like merging, merging, merging. And you're not the same person anymore. You start being desperate and needy for their time. You're not a full person. And so to this day, like for myself personally, I have made such an intentional effort to build my community of friends, my hobbies, to travel, to do things on my own. And it
Mhm.
makes me a full person and it keeps our power dynamics very, not like shifted onto one side.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't put all your weight on love, right? Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also you're more attractive. You bring more to the table if you have a full life.
Yeah, and I think, human beings, we sense power. And if
Mhm.
you are suddenly someone's entire life,
Yeah. Yeah.
you can sense that. And
Yeah,
like,
the
you could
chemistry will
cross a
change.
boundary, right? You're like,
Mhm.
"Ah, you're gonna stick around." Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't
Mhm.
have to, change my schedule for you because you'll do it. So I'll just keep
Right.
doing that. It doesn't mean they're
Right.
evil. You just set the precedent.
Good point. Yeah, you're laying the tracks, Um, the dominatrix thing, I gotta say, which is I love that about your retreat. I think it's probably one of the most popular things there. And I remember before going into it, like, oh my gosh, she has a is this gonna be like a swingers thing or is it? And when I went there, and of course it wasn't, man, what a powerful story she had. And I love the symbolism and the whole thing about power. It was so empowering. So it wasn't about sex, it was about empowering yourself, which was great.
Yeah, and creating an empowering fantasy, which is, I think,
Hmm.
a really important point for people going through breakup or dating and they're disappointed is, Colette teaches this, where so often we have a fantasy and we're not empowered because the agent of change is someone else or
Hmm.
something else. It's
Hmm.
when I get, that movie deal. It's when this guy finally likes me back.
Hmm.
And we're completely powerless. There's nothing we can do. So we're just sitting around waiting, waiting, waiting and getting more anxiety. Whereas an empowering fantasy is you are the agent of change.
Hmm.
You can be like, I want to be an amazing dancer. I can go take dance lessons. Like, I'm going to do that. You're not waiting on someone to come and change your life.
Yeah, I love that. And I also love that she was Asian American because she has such a great Asian American story.
Yeah.
And I could relate to that as a Korean boy with a bowl haircut in the 80s trying to fit in, wearing a strawberry shortcake shirt. And so
Mm.
hearing her story and coming over and all the struggles that she had, wow, it's so powerful. It's just such a powerful thing. And also, I think with Asians and things like sexuality, sexual expression, right? All of that is so suppressed.
Yeah.
So that was great.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about a few misconceptions about breakups. So
Mm.
maybe we can do this together. We could collaborate on this. I don't know if you know, my next book is called Break Through Your Breakup. It's a breakup book.
Oh my
And
God, you know what's so funny? That was my first title for my book.
no way. Was it? So
We changed it.
well that wasn't my first my first title was You Dodged the Bullet. And
Ooh.
Harper was like, we can't really use the word bullet and all that. So I was like, okay, I get that. And then so I came up with Break Through Your Breakup, which I do like. But the subtitle is the 7 different types of breakups that we grow through. And the misconception that I'm trying to put light on is that no breakup is the same. It's not a one fits all. So like, if someone cheated on you, the prescription for that is going to be very different than if it's a mutual breakup where your relationship just turned flat, right? And you guys are actually
Yes.
friends. So no one's ever talked about like there's different types of breakups, and it's not like if you do this thing with every breakup that's going to work. So anyway, that's I just turned it in.
I love it. Amazing.
Yeah. So let's talk about misconceptions. So that's one misconception is that all breakups are the same. And, because it took you, I don't know, 6.5 months to quote unquote get over someone then doesn't mean that it's going to be the same now. Your healing is also different. You're
Yeah.
different. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
What's another
believe
misconception you think?
there's that whole like it takes double the amount of time to get over someone depending on how long you were with each other.
Oh,
I don't know,
all the math numbers.
all
Yeah, that's horrible. That's so lame.
this like
Yeah.
bad math.
Bad math.
Totally no, time doesn't heal all wounds. Time can reduce the emotional intensity and shift, when there's that chemical imbalance that happens. But those wounds and those patterns, those heal by shining light on them and changing your patterns and taking different actions and making different choices. Time isn't magic.
Yes. So this is a misconception number 2. It's not that the time heals wounds. It's what you do with your time.
Yeah.
It's what you do with your time, because someone who does nothing with their time cannot be healed from a breakup or a divorce, 7 years. Someone who's very proactive with their time and doing a lot of work and processing, it may take 7 months. So it's not about how long, it's about what you're doing with your time.
Yeah, exactly.
Another misconception about breakups. What do you think?
Let me
Those two are really
see.
good.
Oh, to get over someone, get under someone?
Oh yeah, yes. To get over someone, you got to get under someone quickly. They also call it fucking your feelings or fucking away your feelings, kind of thing. Which look, you got to be honest with yourself. If what you need is a little escape, okay, but you can't live there. It's like allow yourself, even if you want to feel sorry for yourself for a day, that's okay too. And you wanted to feel attractive or still feel desired, and so you pursue that for a little bit. That may be okay. I don't want to say that's totally bad, but if that's all you do and that becomes the pattern in your life, then that's unhealthy. Now you're running and numbing and escaping.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can go on a dating app or have sex with someone or watch a movie as one of your tactics of distraction. And I get that, but when you are only distracting and avoiding and not dealing with it, and unfortunately, I see this a lot, and unfortunately, I see this more with my male clients than with my female clients.
Sure.
um, it comes back. Like it doesn't just go away. That
Yes.
pain doesn't just magically disappear into the ethers. It stays in you. And then it comes and it gets released in these ways, whether it's in your next relationship or in regret. But it's gonna sneak its head here or now.
One of my friends, he's kind of a locker room friend, meaning we work out together, and we were talking about cum clarity and the clarity that you have after an orgasm. And I was just thinking about this because if you do this kind of stuff and you don't feel good about yourself, then after you finish, there's going to be a lot of bad feelings, a lot of possible shame, and and I don't think it's worth the high, is what I'm
Right.
saying. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Are you gonna write about come clarity in your book?
I would love to. Maybe that should be maybe that should be. It can't be the title. Maybe that should be a.
No, Harper's
It
not
could
gonna like
be
that.
a. It could be a chapter. I don't, God, it would get canceled. It wouldn't even make the shelves. I don't know, or maybe it would. I don't know. Anyway, if you spell it COME, like come clarity, I need to be
Right.
more clear. I'm inviting clarity. But anyway, uh, another misconception is on closure. I don't.
Oh,
What are your thoughts on closure? Because I don't think it's realistic that something has to be quote unquote closed for something else to be open. Yes, generally speaking, as far as law of the universe, yes, there is an eclipsing of a new experience and a shedding of the old and all that. But this whole idea of like, oh, it's not closed yet, so you can't date or you can't do this. The hard
uh,
lines.
I have a very strong opinion on closure. There's people think they want closure. They don't want closure. They're confused. They want relief from the pain of separation.
Mm,
And
mm-hmm.
they think that if I get this apology, if I get that explanation, if I become a CIA agent and find out, why they actually cheated, blah, 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 then I'll feel this, ah, well, nothing's going to give you that, because you are hurting because there's been a separation or your ego is hurt or whatever that pain is. And that thing you think is going to magically give you that release is not. And this closure is really a process of all these things that you're doing, from the everyday meditation to gratitude journaling to the bigger things such as choosing to not stalk your ex on social media. All these things, they eventually add up. And then there is a glue that kind of connects them all together when you find the meaning and the learning experience. And then you go, I get it. And then you can say that is your closure, but it wasn't from someone else.
Yeah, if your definition of closure is seeking an explanation, an apology, it may never come, and then you're just kind of hanging, and what you are living with is quote unquote unclosed. I've been in many relationships and long term relationships, and I think most of my exes don't like me or they're mad at me or what, and there's nothing I can do about that. If I hold on to that, if I am knocking on their door asking for apologies, or if I'm trying to explain what, like, it's never something that I can give myself, right? And
Yeah.
so I have to move on and be okay with it, and continue building my life. And so closure, I think, is a setup. I think closure can get us to hold on to things more than to close, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said.
I'm trying to think of any other. Those are some big misconceptions that I think are great, and I think that I'm glad that we touched upon those.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any other ones. Well, I mean, I don't know if this is about breakups, but there is this idea that they were the one,
Oh yeah, that's I talk about
which
that a
is
lot. There is no one.
no, it's
I mean, there's the one in
mathematically
front of
like
you. There's
right,
the one in front of
yes.
you. Yeah.
Yeah. And like it's going to be different. Like sure, no one's going to call you that cute nickname, right? Ever again. But you will meet someone else at some point and there'll be another nickname. There'll be your other those shared quirks and that's going to be unique as well. One's not better than the other. These different relationships are just different. And ultimately, each one of these relationships is helping you become more conscious. And ultimately, it's about the relationship you have with yourself.
Ooh, you said something that I think is a great thing. And maybe we could kind of end on this is, you just said that each relationship is meant to make you more conscious, right? Um, I'm going to elaborate on that. It's not even the relationship. The potency is going to be in the expiration of that relationship and what you do with that, right? And so
Mm,
I think that we collide, and I think that both people, whether it's an intimate relationship or friendship, it doesn't matter. As humans, we all kind of collide with each other, and there's an exchange, right? So people are taking things away from that. But you have to be honest. You have to look at it, and I think the beauty about breakups is that opportunity. Is that
mm.
through these relationships, there's so much learning about self and love, that we become more conscious, even though it's painful, but what of value in this life doesn't require some kind of pain?
Yeah, and I see breakups so differently now and even relationships. I used to be like the goal is to be with someone, be with them happily forever after. But
Mm.
the reality is, everyone's just on lease. Every relationship, every love, like,
It's the most unsexiest thing
right?
not sexy, the most unromantic thing that you've ever said, but it's real. You're right. We are not buying people. Everyone, we're leasing. We're leasing. There's no option to
Yeah.
buy. We're leasing.
It's
No,
gonna
we
it's
don't own.
gonna expire or end, whether it's through death or sickness or ghosting, whatever. There were never meant to be permanent fixtures in your life. And so what you're ultimately left with is this relationship you have with yourself. And I think all of these people that have a meaningful connection and impact in your life, whether you deem that as good or they're bad, they are a part of you. The relationships that were so hard, even the people that were disrespectful and they hurt me, they are a part of me. I learned more
Hmm.
compassion. I learned more love. I learned about what I don't want, so I know how to create space for what I do want. And there are some exes who are my friends, there are some that are not, but all of them are a part of me.
Yeah, yeah, and there's no need to because here's another thing people do is they try to rip out chapters.
Yeah.
Um, just because it was toxic, just because it was chaotic, just because it was whatever young or whatever it was. I get that it might have been unhealthy. I get that it might have been painful, but it's also a huge part of your story.
Yeah.
You know, like think about a movie. If there was no conflict in a movie, there's no character arc, the movie would be boring. It would be flat. It's what the character goes through and learns. And nothing teaches us in life more than, matters of the heart.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Amy, so much for shedding light on this. And also thank you for you making this your life. So thank you for helping people, whether it's in person through your boot camp or your book. Well, well, you have a book, but you also have an audio. I think this is new. You have an
Yeah.
audio series, correct? Tell us about
I
that.
just launched a new podcast. So it's seven episodes, limited series, and each episode is on each stage of the
Mm.
healing process,
Hmm.
because different strategies are required, right? Like the strategy you use in the shock stage is very different from the bargaining stage. And
Mm.
so it really goes into the science of it. And then I live coach someone who's in that stage in each episode.
Nice. So you have that, and then of course you probably, if you have time, are also helping people via one-on-one or group coaching and all of that. So
Yeah.
thank you for throwing such a wide net.
Thank you.
Yeah. Um, where can we find you?
My Instagram is at Miss Amy Chan. My website is renewbreakupbootcamp.com, and you can find my podcast, Breakup Bootcamp, on Apple or Spotify.
And soon we're gonna see her documentary on television.
And yours, right?
and if we don't, it's still okay. It doesn't
It's
change
all
anything.
right.
Exactly.
We're still
Exactly.
worthy. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you, Amy, for all the work that you're doing, and thank you for being on my podcast. Check out all her stuff and go to her breakup boot camp. It's life changing. Thank you for listening. Be well.